Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Jeff Blankenburg, and joining me today, I have the great honor of sharing the screen with Paul Cutsinger.
Hey, Jeff. How's everybody doing?
I'm good.
Doing well.
So apparently we made some announcements yesterday.
We did. It's Happy Birthday to Jeff announcement day.
Goodness. You guys, so for those of you that don't know, today's my birthday. Paul has a cake. I was sent a cake. There is no shortage of cakes here, and we only have an hour, but I really feel like...
Blow it out, Jeff.
Lovely. Lovely, lovely. So thank you for that. I desperately want to eat this whole cake. Maybe I'll just eat it while we're talking here. Oh my gosh, I'm ready to go too. So yeah, there were a bunch of announcements yesterday, and I feel like you and I should probably dive into what some of those things were.
Yeah, all the Alexa Live announcements. It's pretty cool. It's fun to see all the community out talking about it, and I've certainly got a lot of back channel conversations about like, oh, what can I build with this? And so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So I suppose we should just dive right into it, right? There were a little echo that time. I don't know what just happened there. But we have a bit of an agenda, and I kind of broke things into 6 buckets. But let's start with the first bucket, which is driving engagement and discovery. So as we think about some of those things, I'll just give a quick highlight to what those things were. There were things like APL widgets and featured skill cards, and the name-free interaction toolkit was another big one. So let's start with APL widgets. This is something that is, I think it's a natural evolution of what we've done with visual stuff. But if you think about, where we were with mobile phones 10 years ago, you had apps, and then instantly people wanted visual information, extra stuff to come out of whatever they were already using. And widget starts to feel like that for me. What's your perspective?
I think that, well, okay. So I think it's a little bit different, and it's a different mental model than people might be used to for skills. So first of all, thinking about the big picture of skills, they're kind of skills because they're not like apps. You can jump right into it and you can use a particular skill, right? And one of the key things is a lot of the ways we've had to start skills have been like starting apps, right? You have your launch request and now you're doing it, and it's effectively similar to an app. And widgets, in my mind, are one of those ways that we can really help people move directly into this. So when your skill is not running, you can have something on the screen, and when people walk by, they can go like, oh, what's that? And then they can dive right into the details of your skill. So right into the heart of it. So, a weather skill can talk about the pollen count, and it can show you right there what's going on without you ever even having to start the skill. Right. And then you can go right to it and get more detail. So this to me is one of those affordances that's very discoverable and allows people to get into the meat of it. And it's for the first time you can have your screen up even when your skill's not running.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest selling points for me is the discovery angle. Because I've built too many skills at this point. And what I found is that over time, people tend to forget, right? If I haven't made it a direct habit for them, they forget that it exists or they forget to use it. And I think by being able to take some of that useful information and funneling it to their home screen, now they've got that visual indicator the same way that we do with all of the apps and stuff on our phones. Now we have a way to be like, oh yeah, I want to know more about that thing, or I want to dive back into that experience. Very, very cool.
That remembering thing is so key. And so yeah, having some visual affordances with widgets and letting you mess with some key things there is a great way to help you remember and get back into it. The other one is the NFI stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's the start of, you don't have to remember as well because you can get about right. And if you get about right, you get back into the experience, right?
Exactly. And this is for a lot of those kinds of things where people say like, play a nursery rhyme or tell me a story, or any of those kind of more generic requests that could apply to a number of different things. NFI kind of solves that for a lot of our skills.
Right. It does. And so there's the base level things, like you just said, let's play a game and all that. So we're doing a bunch of things constantly to help drive customer traffic to skills. Like, let's play a game. If you haven't tried that in a while, try it. And it will propose games for you to go try and give you some ideas and some options, and it'll tune it to you over time. But the NFI Toolkit, what it's letting you do is a few new things where you can say, here's some alternates for my launch phrase, or here's some alternates to the intents that I have even. And so that will then in turn teach the NFI system and allow you to drive traffic right into your experience. So we're expanding that. So that's a really cool kind of thing. And long ago, I know that I see a bunch of sort of OG skill builders in the chat and stuff. You'll remember like can't fulfill intent request, right? That was an early form of this. Like there's this AI system that's running and it's trying to figure out how to best route things. The can fulfill stuff was only really good if you already got the traffic, because then it was like, can you handle this? Yes, I can. And then you go on your way, right? And so, but it didn't really drive more traffic to you. So by doing it at the skill package level, where you can say, here's my launch phrase, but here's some alternates to that, or here's my intents, but these are the ones you can call directly, then that signals the system before you get the traffic. So we can drive the traffic to you, right? So it's a nice improvement.
Sure. That makes sense. So there was a good question in the audience that I want to make sure we address, which is, what is the major differentiating factors between APL widgets, which are information that my skill decided to display on your screen, and something like featured skill cards, which I think are just more static representation of the skill itself?
Yeah, they're you should think of them roughly as they're similar, same things, right? It's APL that you can run on the home screen of a device, and it's the way they're sort of surfaced. Like, do people go through and find the one they want, or is it just featured and showed to them? So one's just a little more proactive.
Got it.
But the way you build it's the same.
Right. Okay. So in the spirit of time, because we have a billion things to cover,
let's keep going. Yeah.
Let's keep moving. So that was quick highlights in the driving, engagement, and discovery category. The next stuff that we want to focus on is monetization, and I think this is a really interesting conversation, because there's a whole lot of stuff to unpack here. So the first big one was something that I've heard people ask since you and I first started talking about in-skill purchases in 2018, which is the idea that now, instead of offering ISPs like you do today, which is consumables and one-time purchases and subscriptions, now you have the ability to just make your skill a paid skill. So people have to buy it in order to have it. I think this is a really interesting concept. I think that it's something that people have asked for a while. But for me personally, it's something that I'm a little skeptical of. And the only reason that I say I think it'll work great, but the reason that I'm skeptical is for the same reason that you think about your mobile phone. I'm very unlikely to buy an app that I've never been able to use. And that was one of the reasons that we led forward with the kind of freemium model that we have today, was so that there was a free experience. Everybody could try every skill no matter what. And then if you wanted to buy premium content because you loved it, great. So I think paid skills will have its own niche. I think it'll have good success for very specific applications. But for me personally, I think I still always want that kind of free experience first. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. And at first I was saying, hey, why are we doing this? Because you got to experience the skill first. But there's a couple good reasons to do it. So one of those is that you can go to the details page on Alexa.com and look at the skill, watch information about it and all that, and then pay for it right there and get there. So you have the ability to drive traffic from there. Right. And with quick links, you also have the ability to drive traffic directly from your own website. So you have a chance to promote what's going on and then get people into it. So I do believe you want to have people understand what it is before they buy it. That just seems like good business practice. Right. And you can always have an experience that is just lets you in for a little bit, shows you a little bit of information, and then upsells you to ISP. But now you can do paid skills, so you can do it straight from your website or straight from the Amazon.com site. And
one of the things that I hope our end customers will realize and value is that they're, at the end of the day, they're still buying something from Amazon. Right. And that means that if they make a purchase and they're not happy with their choice, or they feel like this is not something that I wanted, they can still go through their standard customer service practices of saying, hey, I bought this, but this is not at all what I expected. Can I please have a return again?
Yeah.
So I hope that they have the purchasing confidence to be able to go through that process.
Spreading internationally is a big one too.
Yeah.
You know, going to India, like there's that, like it's just going to be really cool to let a lot of people.
I think ISPs in India, Canada, I think that those kinds of things are going to be big. I know the folks in India have been asking for that for quite a while, and I'm very excited to see what they're going to be able to build with that.
Yep. So the new one, shopping stuff, shopping actions, Amazon Associates.
Yeah, this is really interesting to me. So when we I mean, I've been an Amazon associate forever, probably 12, 15 years. When I write blog posts, if I talk about products, I'll use an Amazon Associates link. And if somebody buys something, great. I get a little money. But the ability to do this in skills has seemed like a natural extension of skills forever, because Amazon is the everything store. There is literally everything for everyone. And so if you're looking to offer people products without not even products you sell, just products that are available on Amazon.com, you can sell them through your skill and receive a small commission as a part of it.
That's exactly right. And so you can sell your own products, right? So you can send to those, and you make your normal revenue off of selling your own product, or you can do affiliate revenue, where maybe you have a skill that recommends certain things, and then you can route people to it and get a little slice of the affiliate revenue. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. And I think I'm sure there will be some people that try to do both, double dip on it, right? Not only am I selling my own product, but I'm also trying to sell the affiliate. I think they probably have mechanisms to prevent that.
They might. I don't know how that works. Yeah.
That would be interesting to be able to catch it on both sides, though. There was a question in the chat that I want to make sure I touch on here, and that is there a review to get started like the existing Amazon Associates program? A bird literally just flew into my window.
Happy birthday.
He's fine.
That's how it starts.
He's fine. He looks a little stunned. I think he'll be okay. Anyway, they want to know if there's a review process or if you can use your existing Amazon Associates program. I know that this is still in preview, right? So if I should provide a link to the blog post, but in the blog post, there is a link to all of the preview access forms that you have to fill out. And that would be the place that I would start. But yes, I would expect that you're using the same Amazon Associates account that you were using previously.
Cool.
I'm trying to get back to my PowerPoint. Keeps jumping off the screen. So, okay, I want.
You're not sharing the screen on PowerPoint, by the way, if you're doing that.
Say that again, Paul.
You're not sharing the PowerPoint screen, by the way, if you're meaning to.
Oh, I'm not. Well, I'm not sharing it here on StreamYard, but I think I am sharing it on the other one. No.
It's all good.
Maybe I'm not.
Maybe I'll pick up a couple questions here. Oxygen box, how's it going? It's so funny. Yeah, I've had a lot of flashbacks too. Quick links. I must have seen it in a while. How much is it actually used? Yeah, you can use it out in the wild. So there's a bunch. I don't remember all the names. The one I remember most firmly is Domino's. So you can do order tracking. You do a quick link from order tracking, and that's been really great. Like they've been having a great time with it. So yeah, quick links is such a great way. There's some subtle things that you might not realize. You think, oh, I can go from a website to here, but it really opens up a lot of things for you, because now you can deep link into your skill, and then you can know that that's where your traffic came from. So you can start to do things like run ads and see how effective they are, right? In fact, I think there's an underlying piece that when we talk about top level features, we don't often talk about the underlying infrastructure that's going on behind it. And there's a thing around skill connections that's underlying a lot of the things we've talked about, right? And this notion that you can drive right into a part of your skill via skill connection through quick links, through the widget stuff, right? The home cards, the routines use that. It's NFI can use that. So if you say I want to have this intent surfaced, you can do that. This is a pretty interesting piece of core infrastructure that enables a lot of these other kinds of features and skills and experiences. And you can imagine that's where we've been headed since the beginning, since we named them skills instead of apps. And it's where we continuously are heading, is this ability allowing people to get right to the part that they want to get to as easily as possible. So if there was one deep tech thing I would look into in general, it'd be the skill connections. That's just kind of like your gateway into a lot of other interesting traffic drivers and engagement drivers.
Agreed. All right, so we kind of moved on from Amazon Associates and all of that stuff. I think it's good to cover, but again, we're still in the early days with a lot of these features, and I'm excited to see how people use them. One of the other things that I'm excited to see people use, specifically musicians, is the idea of the Amazon Music Spotlight. So I'm kind of moving into the entertaining and immersive experiences section of this. I mean, this is incredible. We're talking about a mechanism that gives artists a way to connect pretty directly with their fans. And that just seems amazing to me.
Yeah, they basically build a experience where, and when I say build an experience, they configure it, right? They go to their artist studio and they fill it out. Them or their manager can fill it out, and then what it does is allows you to inject your own personal commentary along with the playlist that you might want to talk about or whatever. And so you can have this pretty interesting connection. Likewise, there's another experience around radio where you can now talk and you can say, hey, I want to do a song request. And you can effectively talk to the DJ and start influencing what's going on with the show. And you can imagine how cool that'll be once we can get it really interactive, right? Like this is a great first step. This is just like, I could have dedicated a song to you for your birthday today.
Right.
You know, and
I'm disappointed that you didn't do that, Paul, but it's okay. So it's actually, I do a lot of listening to Sirius XM in my car.
Yeah.
And I've noticed lately, I listen to the Lithium station, which is like 90s alternative. And they allow people to introduce songs. And the way that they do that is by having you create an audio file that you send to them. And I was listening to them explain that. And mind you, they're explaining to you this on the air. This is a lot of instructions, but they basically want you to go into your phone, create a voice memo, and email it to them.
Right.
And it hurt my head to think about the idea that like this is happening all the time. There's like random people that are like, hey, here's Nevermind by Nirvana or whatever. But they had to go through that process, like really manual process to get that thing fed in and then mapped. It seems like we're on the path to being able to do things like that pretty dynamically.
And this is a really big part of entertainment. I mean, don't underestimate how big of a part of this is entertainment. Like we like talking to celebrities. That's why there's pictures of the DJs are on the buses around your town, right? They're trying to build like a community and a feeling. And I want to be a part of, like we just saw Oxygen Box go by, and like I haven't talked to Oxygen Box in 2 years, but that was a part of Twitch. Is like we're there together and we're doing stuff, and so that connection to DJs is very important to the listeners and to the radio stations and to the DJ, of course, right? So I think this is really cool, and by far, like as you just said, it's the fastest, easiest way to make that connection because you just think it and go, oh, hey, I want to hear the song, and now it's off and going.
Right. Well, and so let's jump to that because I want to talk about Shared Activities API in a second, but the other side of this is the interactive media skill components, which plays nicely into some of the things that you're describing.
That's it actually. Yeah.
So can you unpack that for folks? Just kind of give them a bigger picture as to what that is meant to accomplish. Because I know we have someone, I think that's Alan Furstenberg, but asking about how flexible are those interactive media components?
Yeah. So here's what's cool about it is you're building a music skill kit or a podcast skill kit or whatever kind of an experience, and those are great because they are optimized for that experience. They got play, pause, all the transport controls ready to go. All that kind of stuff all set up nicely. But what if you want to do something really custom, like a song dedication? Well, you'd much rather have a custom skill for that, right? And so what this is using is this, do you remember what MCS stands for?
Say that again?
MCS, multi-capable skills.
Multi-capability skills, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And so you're using the combination of that built-in player plus a custom skill together. And what the interactive media skill components do is they say, let's build you a component that does that bridging for you and allows you to bring that custom experience to you. So, somebody like iHeartRadio, who's doing this one right now, they can take that skill component, they can just configure it to go to their DJs, whatever technique they use to go there. Like they could call APIs, or they could send an email, or whatever they would need to do to make that connection. So yeah, it really opens up this ability for people to do a wider range of things.
For sure.
We imagine a bunch of those coming, tipping and all sorts of things, right?
And now we have the shared activities API, which doesn't necessarily fall into those buckets the same, but it's kind of this immersive new, I like to think of it as like a multi-turn opportunity for people to be able to play games with other people. This is something that has been rather limited when we talk about building games and experiences across devices, across accounts, across the globe. But it's something as simple as a game of chess could potentially use something like the shared activities API to allow us to go back and forth and make moves.
Yeah, it's in that same vein of like connecting people, but now it's connecting your friends, right? And so, yeah, games can say, I just answered this. I got 2 of 5 right questions, or I guess 6 right questions in Jeopardy. Try to beat that, Jeff. Right? I mean, I've never actually got 2 right, but I'm just saying this time I got 2 right.
I have gotten 6 right a couple of times, but most of the time I'm with you. It's like 1 or 2. And then once in a while, I'll just catch a freaky awesome day. Yeah,
if I hit the physics vein, I'm like, yeah, know all this stuff. But if I hit the sports vein, all I know is like the Bucks are awesome and they won their big gig, right? So that's awesome. 105 beat those Suns, I guess. There we go.
Yeah, I want to make sure I don't miss any of these questions. One person asked, and we're going to get to it. Can you talk about the Alexa Connect Kit and the Alexa Common Software stuff? That's coming up. We will definitely be talking about that a bit. Goldzula was asking about the free tier limit removal for hosted skills. Does it include bandwidth? I believe that there are still some bandwidth restrictions. So, for example, I know one good use case that is not great for the Alexa hosted scenario is like a sleep sounds scenario. If you're streaming audio or video at a high frequency for your skills, you're still going to run into some limits for the Alexa hosted scenarios. But almost anything else, if you're not consuming a ton of bandwidth, almost anything else, you should not really have the ability to hit a limit.
Okay.
Oxygen Box says, is the shared activity API essentially playing Words with Friends? It certainly could be.
That's a great example use case. It's you package up the results of something, like I just cleared a level, or I just got a score, or whatever, and then I can issue a challenge to Jeff or whoever in my somebody in my Alexa communications friends list, and then they get a little message, and you can type back and forth to each other in messages like you would for Alexa comms, and you can also you get the notification on your Alexa device, and it can be like, it would say like, Paul just got 2 points in Jeopardy, try to beat that, and then here comes the questions for you, and so you can move on to the next level, right? Like,
now, I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to validate it with you, Paul. John G. Bondad, one of our Alexa champions, said the messaging feature for this, which you just described, send a message to me to play Words with Friends or whatever. Is it just notifications, or can the players actually send each other messages?
Yeah, they can send each other messages. It's in the Alexa app. So it's just a part of the comms thing. Yeah, so you can type back and forth to each other.
Cool.
Do all sorts of stuff.
Here's your answer. That's awesome. And I know Debalab was asking about what the limits are on S3, and John did us a favor of providing a link directly to what those new limits are for Alexa hosted storage.
Thank you.
That's excellent. All right, so let's carry on. Plenty more to talk about. I think this is category 3 or 4 we're now into. We're talking about things for at home and on the go for customers. And the first one is the food skill APIs, which I know is something you've been really excited about for a while. So I'll let you run with that one.
Okay, well, can I always start with the crazy big picture and then come back to reality a little bit? Okay, so it blows my mind that we don't have a ton of like order food kind of experiences on Alexa. We do have some. There's Domino's and Starbucks and a few of them. There's some out there. But holy cow, that's clearly a thing that can be better with a voice-based experience in dynamic computing, right? And it's just not yet, right? It's just not as where it should be yet. And so we've been leaning really, really heavy into some of these, and food is one of the ones. And there's a lot of invention that has to happen in order to make this really work out. And so pulling that together into a skills API where you can just basically say, all right, I'm going to go configure this thing to order food for my restaurant. One, opens up a whole range of restaurants to be able to offer experiences to customers that's very like bespoke and optimized for that. But two, it starts to push the boundaries of what you've been able to do with Alexa forever and make you think in a slightly different way. If I'm really looking forward to using things like this and the underpinnings of it, which is Alexa Conversations, and having like a really deep example of how that's all playing out to show us how ambient computing experiences can really feel, right? I want to do like this. I have this sort of mathematical, physically like way of thinking about this, but I want to have like a theorem that we could prove out that talks about the absolute fastest way to accomplish a task. And it can't be totally system initiative. It can't be totally where you follow the instructions of the system and you get the thing done. That's right. Helpful when I don't know what to do, but that's not the fastest way. In fact, we've all had the experience where we want to skip over stuff or accelerate things. And it can't be purely user initiative, where it's just basically like the user says everything they want, because sometimes the user forgets some stuff, right? So, but I think I would love to figure out how to prove it. I think the mixed initiative has to be the fastest, because the user can say whatever they need to say and they can accelerate whatever parts they want. And where they pause, the system can do a little bit more, and then we can keep going. And so then you just get like, and by the way, it doesn't have to just be talking. It can be talking plus touch plus gestures plus sensors around, this whole ambient computing kind of an experience. We could really get to the most effective way to accomplish any task ever, right? Like bar none. And so, you mentioned the radio example with IME, where people are saying, how do you go through and submit something via your phone, and how many apps do you have to open, or what number do you have to remember, whatever, instead of just saying, Alexa, request a song for iHeartRadio, right? Boom,
right,
done. So food, I think, is really an exciting push deep into that space. And I'm really excited to see what we do with restaurants there. And I also am really excited about the tech that's been spinning off of that will allow for adjacent scenarios, right? It's going to be, it's all built on top of Alexa Conversations, but it's really diving deep into those bits.
Yeah, John had another question regarding the menu management for a restaurant, because a lot of times restaurants' menus will change, and so I guess the big question here is, can I use things like dynamic entities and catalog management in combination with what we're doing with the food ordering APIs to be able to supplement my menu on a regular basis, or is it a manual process?
Yeah, you can use. So let me talk in general, and then we can, foods in preview, and there's a lot of ways you could do it. But there's a variety of ways to solve this. One is dynamic entities, dynamic catalog, custom lexicons, and then of course just updating your skill and all that kind of stuff. But there's other ways too, like blueprints, or using the SMAPI stuff, the skill management APIs to update content. And so there's a lot of ways that you can pull together to make this happen. And for restaurants, of course, you can imagine you'd want it to be a no-code way, right? So we've got to have ways for people to like push that content up.
You mean every restaurant doesn't have a team of software developers employed to make changes to all their software? They
do. They're just cooking eggs, most of the time.
That's their side gig, cooking eggs?
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm just saying, I think there's a range, and we have to be able to support the entire range. There's some people who are going to do full-on custom skills. They're going to build all this out, and they're going to use the base underlying things. They're going to use Alexa Conversations, dynamic entities, and all those kinds of things to pull this together. And then there's some people who are going to kind of be in the middle. They're going to like, okay, give me all the parts. Give me these skill components. Let's grab all these parts together. And then they're going to add a little bit around the edges to do like, maybe their restaurant is different in that it's got like schedule a birthday at the restaurant, right? And so I want to add some custom experiences to that. And then you've got like the no code kind of an experience where you're just like, look, I got menus, I got specials and deals, and I want to do some order tracking. Boop, configure this thing and let's go, right?
Yeah. So Leah just asked a moment ago, what is the feature we're talking about? It's called the Food Skill APIs, and it's basically a set of tools and components for people to be able to build food ordering skills.
Yeah.
The next one that I want to talk about is event-based triggers, and the on-the-go stuff for me has always been really compelling because it plays really nicely into smart home and devices and a bunch of other stuff also. But when we think about events-based triggers, we're talking about things like geofencing. So one of the examples that I've actually used Alexa for several years now is I have an Echo Auto in my car, and I was using if this then that to manage it, but I have if this then that recognize my geofence based on my phone, and then it talks to my garage door to open it when I pull near my driveway. And it works marvelously if I'm the only person living in my house. But when you have multiple people all geofencing and playing this kind of weird game, it sometimes get confused. But those kinds of triggers, those event-based triggers, whether that's geolocation or some other event, those are now things that you can play with inside your skills to make things happen, whether that's calling a routine or making something interesting happen inside your skill.
Yeah. And then act. This is the other part, like you said, like open the garage door.
Right.
And so it's pretty neat that you can say, when you, I think the demo was when you get close to the Whole Foods, it's like, here's your instructions, pull into parking spot 7 and pick up your groceries. And by the way, it alerts on the back end, it alerts the grocery store to know you're there. So they can say, oh, now's the time to run out and bring the groceries.
Right. And this goes back to a talk that I've given a couple of times, and I keep refining and changing it. I'm probably going to give a bigger version of this at reInvent this year. But about the idea of what the future of people looks like in 5 to 10 years when we really have embraced a lot of this technology. Because right now, what people are doing is they're fumbling with their phone while they're driving through a parking lot to call into the store and be like, hey, I'm here. And they're like, oh, you could have just texted us, or you could have just used, like, people don't always know. But when it feels natural and it feels easy, I want it to be something that I don't think about. The idea that I'm going to drive to Whole Foods to pick up my order that they told me was ready, the rest of that process should be seamless. Realistically, they should be able to see when I get near the store, and as I pull into the parking spot, that person is chasing me down, right? They've got my shopping cart full of food, and they're coming to me because of some beacon or something. Somehow they know which car I am and how I'm getting there. But I think in some ways that's an eventuality, right? Like, I don't want to have to think about that. My job is to get to Whole Foods. And honestly, in 10 years, I hope my car's job is to get to Whole Foods, not mine. Maybe I don't even tag along. Maybe it just goes to the store and picks up my food for me.
Right.
That would be amazing.
To me, there's two big things that have me inspired in this space that you're talking about. One is around ambient computing, where it's just my computing is around me wherever I need it, however I need it. It's multimodal, meaning I can interact with it the way that's most appropriate at the moment. Sometimes I'm typing, sometimes I'm saying, sometimes, whatever I need to do. And then, and the sensors and whatever, and then the other one is it's just getting smarter, and it can actually take action based on what I'm doing. And I think that's a really cool piece. So that's one part, is this ambient computing future, I think is really cool. Part of the reason I really think that's cool, though, is the second reason, which is it's how computing will bend to us versus us bending to computer, right? It always pains me to watch a usability study of a website or a mobile app or whatever, and the people are trying to learn the thing that you built. And I just love this notion of just like, what you want to do. The person, we gave them the task. They know the task they want to accomplish, but it takes all these clicks and steps and menus and navigation and comprehension and blah, blah, blah. Right. And instead of just saying, hey, I want to get some bananas, right? And you're like, let's go get some bananas, right? And I start walking to the grocery store, and then I know that I should be working out, and I want to work out, and I've told my assistant to help me work out, and it says, hey, you're walking. Why don't you pick up the pace a little bit, and you can be running? I'll play some upbeat music for you. And boom, now it starts going, and it notices I'm running, and after a couple minutes, like, good job, that's awesome, you're running. And the difference between walking, running, driving is some of the events that we've just announced, right? So that ability to tune the experience to match that is just so cool that people can be like,
I would need mine to be crazy aggressive with me. Like, look, fatty, you've already had 2 pieces of cake today. You need to go for a run.
I have worked out, I've worked out in the past. I have a goal to do 50 push-ups. And so I did a quarter of a push-up today. So I'm well on my way to get there. I've
great.
About
you could probably follow
days left to get these done.
Go a full one tomorrow.
No. Come on, Jeff. Let's keep going. We got to keep going.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Oh, send
All
the
right, so
phone.
custom tasks is something we've had around for a while, but now it's something that you can enable and make available inside routines, which I think is kind of exciting because that means users can now configure their routines to take advantage of specific tasks inside your skills, which I think is going to be awesome.
Yeah, me too. And you know, this is another way to drive customers to come use your experience, right? This is another way that you can say, hey, I've got this routine that's all about fitness. Go check it out. Or I've got this one that's about mindfulness. Go check it out. And it can do a combination of things. It can chain together smart home events and all that and go there. And so I think this is a really interesting and cool way for people to start embedding their skill into larger experiences.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk
So
about
example
another
of skill
one.
connections, by the way, right?
Yeah.
The underpinning of that is skill connection.
You're right. Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about another one that I'm pretty excited about, which is send to phone, because I think this unlocks a bunch of capabilities. One of the examples I think we saw was the app TikTok, and being able to tell your device to tell your phone to do something is incredibly compelling. Now, one of the things that I've been pushing for years is that, like, I have all these devices with screens on them, right? Like, I have a bunch of them behind me. If for people that are making TikTok videos, an Amazon Echo would be the perfect device. It's already like on your counter. It's pointed where you want it to be. You can do your little dance or whatever, lip sync or whatever you're going to do. And being able to just talk to it and make that stuff happen would be amazing. Now, we're not there yet. We haven't programmatically unlocked the camera and stuff like that. But the idea that if I'm using the Alexa app on my phone and I talk to it and I say, let's make a video on TikTok, it can recognize that, open TikTok on my phone, and start the recording for me. Like,
yeah,
that's amazing.
It's amazing. And so I think that's a really awesome future. You start to couple that with the artist spotlight. You start to couple that with interactive music. You start to couple that with food, and you can talk about foodies want to share a thing about their meal. Like, there's a bunch of really cool things that I think can play out of that. I can think of a lot of experiences that exist today that could really make a lot of use of send to phone. Let me make up one real quick. Okay. The Chicago Art Institute one that Bondad did, like that. Maybe you can drop the name of it in there, but
it's called
you're going around, you're touring around the Art Institute, and you're seeing all this wonderful art, and then you say, I want to buy tickets to this, or I want to schedule a trip to it, or I want to see the map of what's around it, or I want to do a bunch of other things that you haven't built into the skill, right? But it is built into your app. Just send them off to your app, right? That's a totally fine thing to do. And so, yeah, you send a phone, and the big announcement this year is you can do that from you can do it from an Echo device, right? Like you can be at your kitchen device, and now your phone gets a little bzz, and there's your notification, you click it, and now you're straight into the app. And so I want every app to do this. Like, I play chess with a bunch of my kids' friends. I guess they're my friends. I don't know. I don't know if they're my kids. What are they? Yeah, they're like
friends-in-law.
Friends. It's like first cousins or second cousins, like second friends. Anyway, I play chess with them all, and I'm sure I beat them all the time, but maybe not. And so I would love to just be able to say, Alexa, open chess, and boom, it comes straight to there's the app. It's going, right? Mm-hmm. Versus right now, it's pick up my phone, unlock it, swipe down, type chess, find then right. There's like a bunch of little steps I have to do. So I don't know why every app wouldn't want to be able to be launched faster. And then you go from there, you go better. Like, you can do a lot of stuff inside of your skill, but whenever it's appropriate, pop it over to send the phone. And then, by the way, you do the reverse with quick links, right? So now you go back in, you're doing your stuff in the app, and then you go, okay, like ordering pizza. Like, if you could do some stuff, order the thing you ordered last time, make a couple changes, and you're like, I want to browse the menu. Oh, browse the menu opens up the app. You're browsing the menu. It's great for that, right? Scroll, order, and you say, okay, check my order, and now it's back onto Alexa, so I can be back doing my own thing, right? So.
Yep, absolutely. So there's a couple of comments in here. People commenting about what just happened with my keyboard. A couple of people commenting about stuff we've been talking about. So one question was, can Alexa handle a stream on Twitch? So you can actually watch Twitch on an Echo today. If you have one with a screen on it, but because of the fact that no one has access to the camera, There is no way to create a Twitch stream with an Echo, although I hope in the future, once we can figure out some of the security and privacy things, that is a definite possibility. I would love to be able to stream directly from an Echo. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. The closest to that is like Zoom. Like Zoom can do Zoom meetings.
Yep.
Right. So there's some precedence, but it's just very narrowly focused. And then, as you say, customers first. We got to make sure we do this right.
And then on YouTube, Tim Dawa asked if we can create an Alexa app from .NET, from like C# or Visual Basic Microsoft stuff. And absolutely.
Yeah, if you can parse JSON, you can make an Alexa skill.
Right. That's what I always say, is that if you can build any app you want, as long as you can consume and send JSON, you can build it. If you want to build it in COBOL on a mainframe, go for it. You just need to be able to consume and produce that JSON. So yes, you could absolutely do that. And in fact, a good friend of mine, his name's Tim Hewer, works on the developer tools team at Microsoft, has created Alexa.net, which is an open source library that he created on GitHub. So I would highly recommend checking that out if you're interested.
For recording, so we have for video recording and uploading right after, we have people have done that through Blueprints. So you could use your webcam and you grant permissions through your browser, and then you record and you hit upload, and now it's a part of the skill, right? It just becomes part of the data of the skill.
Mm-hmm. All right, the last one, and I'm going to admit I don't know a lot about this one yet, so I'm hoping I can tap into your knowledge for this, which is the concept of Find My. Now I get the underlying idea, right? I can tell it to find my phone or make keychain or even like a tile device. But do you have any? Can you give me some more background on like kind of how that works, or do I have to register devices, or how does that go down?
Yeah. So Tile we just announced Tile, so you can now pair your Tile devices with Alexa, and I'm not sure of the details of how it all works on the back end.
Yeah, I haven't pulled that piece apart yet either. But what I would imagine happens is that I go into a system somewhere and I register my phone with my number, right? And then I say find my phone, and it can ring my phone.
Yep.
The same with the Tile devices. I bet there's some account linking with my Tile account, and then I can tell it the names of the devices, and you're off and running. That's my interpretation of how it works. I haven't actually played with this one yet, though.
That's right.
Cool. Okay. So that's our on-the-go stuff. That's the topics I wanted to cover. The next one's huge. The next subject matter that we're going to cover is developer productivity. This is near and dear to my heart and some of the things that we're doing. So I guess the first one to talk about is some of the advancements in Alexa conversations. I know you spent a little time talking on that, but is there anything big or broad that you want to cover on Alexa conversations beyond kind of what we knew before yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, for Alexa conversations, the big changes are just the next round of things people have been asking for, and then opening up to GA, so stabilization and all that. So there's clearly more features that people in all the previews and beta have been asking for. The key thing I would love to say about Alexa conversations is it's different, and don't let that slow you down. What I hear a lot is this doesn't work the way I'm used to it working. What's this? What's going on? And I think in all of these tooling areas, we're going to have a very large learning curve around how do you design experiences that are built on top of AI primitives, right? I mean, think back, Jeff, when we started doing all this with Alexa, right? Like the whole concept of like, how do you design for voice, the AI concept of voice, and like the fact that your interaction models or training data was super foreign to people, right? It was conceptually like, what is happening, right? And it took a while to explain that to people. And if you go back and watch some of the first videos we ever made, or the first talks we ever did, you'd be like, wait, what? It was very rudimentary and very conceptual around like, you're training an AI right now. Do you realize that's what you're doing? You're not procedurally programming a thing. Right. And so Alexa Conversations takes that to another level. And I think that we've got to figure out how to conceptualize experiences that can handle combinatorially huge amounts of inputs, right? Voice is one, sensors is another, your activities are another, like all those different things, which device you're using, where you just came from, all that stuff. If you had to build a state machine that managed all of those different pieces for every user, and every user is completely different in what they want, what they're trying to do, and what devices they have, and all that stuff, and the way they say things, it's a daunting task. And that's where you end up today with some set of skills that are super great because they're just like punch through it. They're like, do a thing, right? That's it, done. But then you get others that are trying to do big things, and then they start to become fragile. And so you need to lean on the AI components to do that. And so I think that, over the next what's an infinite amount of time in this space? I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years or something like that.
A couple of weeks.
Getting your head around the concepts of using AI to manage all of those things and to figure out how to build the kind of an experience that you think works great for people, right? Like it adapts to them instead of the way that you've got in your head to do it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be big and powerful. So I just want to always encourage people to go lean into it, go face into it.
Well, and I think early on, it was mostly ignorance, but also arrogance, I think, for us to, as developers, to come in and just say, well, no, I can clearly define the scope of this problem. Or like I can clearly understand all the things a user might say, and I'll be able to map those to specific commands, and it'll be excellent.
I did all that.
That's where we had to start.
Yeah.
But I think we've realized anyone that's ever built a couple of skills and had people use them, like, it's an infinite number of possibilities, literally. And to be able to accommodate and manage and map all of those things accurately is a near impossibility. So why not hand that heavy lifting off to machine learning and AI that's constantly improving, constantly thinking about how to solve that problem, rather than putting that on yourself?
That's right. So that's where it's at. And I think it's a lot of fun, but it's new. And so the question is, like, I would say if you're like, I got to get a skill built today, right now, and I've never built something with Alexa Conversations, hey, just go build one the way you know how, fine. But if you're saying, I want to invest in my skill set for the next couple of years, I think this is a place where you got to say, let's go dig in, let's go learn it, let's go experiment with it, let's see push the boundaries on it, go try things, see where it's really frustrating, see where it's awesome, and eventually you'll find I have grown to love this, right? Like, to me, this is where it's at, and this is the future of our industry. So I'm excited about it. But I empathize with everybody who's spent the last 3-4 years thinking a very specific way about how to build successful skills.
I think there still are a lot of applications for that, but I think that understanding that you can extrapolate your experience, your knowledge, lean on some artificial intelligence to handle a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Now that gives you the opportunity to expand beyond that. For sure. One of the other things that I wanted to cover off on, I can't believe we only have 12 minutes left, is the kind of voice forward account linking and consent.
Yeah.
This is something that developers have been asking for forever, and I'm very excited.
Customers have been asking for it too, right? Like, yeah.
For those of you that aren't familiar, account linking is a very challenging process that requires OAuth and a number of other processes. And so it had to happen off of the device. It had to happen on a phone or on a computer or something like that. And so the idea that now people can link their accounts directly to your skill, which gives you the ability to use APIs and access data, can now be voice enabled, is pretty amazing. But I think the even bigger one is the consent, the permissions. We have so many different things that are hidden behind permissions that people want to be able to use. And in order for a user to enable it, they had to leave the experience, go to their phone, make some changes, and then come back. And now we can prompt them and say, hey, is it okay if I have access to your email address? And they say yes, and then you have it. That's just amazing.
Yeah, and this is such an important part of a voice experience, because as a skill designer, your goal is to help the user get things done really quickly and easily. And if you already know stuff from them from your website or your mobile app, you want to not ask them the same questions again in voice, right? So getting this connection, and then whatever, of course, you do on Alexa, you get back into this web and app experience, I think is really powerful too. And so I think this is a really big one and an important one. And yeah, now that you can just do it purely with voice and not have to go to your phone, that's a great one. So the thing to learn with this one is log in with Amazon, right? Go look at log in with Amazon and figure out how to incorporate that into your auth stack. And then that really opens you up here. Yeah, we should spend 1 minute on maybe APL and stuff, or where do you want to go next?
Yeah, let's talk about APL.
Okay, we already talked about widgets and the featured cards. Like, that's awesome. But on the tooling side, there's a bunch of different things. There was a question in chat here around, hey, can I test if I don't have a screen device? Yep, there's a simulator. You can go in there and you can see it. You can actually flip through the different devices and see what's on there. I guess there's a lot of different improvements in here, so you should check them out if you've been an APL developer for a while. The one that I really am into is the whole designer tool chain thing, where you have converters where you build it in your tools and then pull it into APL. Right. I think that's a really cool one. But clearly the featured home cards are awesome.
Yes. Yeah, I think there was a question earlier on about, it seems like we're doing a lot with APL. And I think that there's just a lot of opportunity with APL. But I wouldn't say that as I look across the broad swath of features that we announced yesterday, I certainly wouldn't say that most of them were APL. It was a small segment, but there's a ton of stuff in there. Is that accurate to you? I think that it's a very important component, but it's not the only thing. It's not the only thing that we're focused on. But APL is a very valuable interactive piece of an entire ambient story.
That's exactly right. And the whole point of it is that you can have visuals that are passive on any of the Echo family devices, or you can have touch commands that are active on any of the Echo family devices, right? And so it's just very, it's about the ambient experience. Completely. It's about naturalness.
It harkens back to that phrase, picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Like Alexa could explain all of this to you, or we could just show you a picture of exactly what that thing looks like, whether it's a chart.
That's right. That's right. And the mental model that I've seen work the best for this is rather than trying to replicate an entire website or mobile app, which is probably better to use with a mouse and menus and all that, this is not the point of APL. I think of the point of APL as, like, imagine we're talking about something and I've got a whiteboard and a marker, and I can have memory markers to help you move through the experience and see what's going on, or visuals to experience it. I can see the art, or I can see the video, and or I can get clues about what I might want to say next. So if I'm giving you some options, instead of saying you can have A, B, or C, it's like, what would you like next? And you show A, B, and C on the screen, and you get this sort of passive sense of like what's going on, and you make the whole experience much more natural.
Yep, totally agree.
Oh, one other thing that reminds me, one other thing about the combination of APL and Alexa Conversations is, a lot of times people think of Alexa Conversations as a way to make a conversation longer. Right, it's a way to manage multiple turns and have all sorts of turns going. And it is a dialogue manager. That's what it's about, right? But it's actually the best way to make the conversation shorter, because if you can handle the wide range of things that people can say, you can also have less specific prompts, right? So, for example, if I pull up to the drive-through of some place and I say, they say, "How can I help you?" They don't say, "Would you like drinks or entrees or desserts," right? And so you can stand to be a little more vague. And so that's why I like the combination of Alexa Conversations and APL, because you can say, "Hey, what would you like next?" And I can show APL to give you some clues about what you might want to say really carefully. And then, because you can say a lot of things, you can go forward.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a couple other things on this list that I really wanted to touch on. It was announced in beta prior to Alexa Live, but I think it went GA, which was Alexa Entities. If folks haven't had a chance to play with this yet, this is a really interesting, powerful tool. It works with a number of different slot types, things like celebrity and person, place, things like that. But if someone talks to your skill, and let's say the answer happens to be Ronald Reagan, as an example, you can, because you're using a celebrity slot or a famous person slot, you get a bunch of additional data without having to do any extra work. You get additional data back as part of the payload that you receive from your skill. And in there is useful information that you can call an API to get more information about Ronald Reagan. So if you want to know when he was born, or when he died, or how long he was president, or how tall he was, or who he was married to, like all of that stuff is buried and encapsulated inside these entities. Anything that can be recognized as a popular entity, right? So it works for things like authors and books and all sorts of other stuff. And I would imagine that's going to continue expanding. But it's really, really useful, because it means you don't have to build all the information into your skill. One example that it does not cover today, but I built a skill called the Unofficial Star Wars Databank. Paul, I know you use this all the time. And the idea behind this skill is that it's meant to answer all of the questions you might have about the Star Wars universe, whether that's characters, vehicles, planets, weapons, whatever.
Yep. How you beam somebody up.
Exactly. You nailed it, right? Beaming someone up. It should come through this camera. Anyway, the concept there is awesome. The challenge I have is that I have to go through and write all of that content. I have to find images that I can use to represent those in APL and on screens. And it's a ton of work. And it seems to me with something like Alexa Entities, I could very easily just say, well, give me the information about Luke Skywalker. I want to know all of that stuff. I don't want to write that.
Totally.
It's a really
like the countries,
scenario, I think,
the countries you can see what the population is, what the neighboring country is, who the leader of that country is.
Right.
There's another flavor of this which is pretty interesting too, which is, and I can't remember the technical name for this in grammar or language, I guess, but like if I say truck, there's like a parent of truck and a child of truck. So like a parent of truck is transportation and a child of truck would be a Ford. And so what's kind of cool about this is if you have an experience and the person says Ford, it could say like, oh, that's a truck. And now you could go like, you could then pull that information to your skill and you could have yet another way of doing synonyms and so forth. So yeah, there's all sorts of cool stuff there.
Yeah, I think that's only going to continue to grow. So I would keep an eye on that one for sure. Another big one is the A/B testing. This is something that developers have been asking for quite a while also, which is the ability to basically have two separate lambdas that are my A and my B test. And allows me to, basically turn a dial and say, I want 10% A, 90% B, and let's see how it runs and let's see the kind of feedback and data that we get. This is an impossibly hard task without us providing some of that framework. And now that that is available, it's very, very easy for you to roll out multiple experiences, both with your model and with your back end. I think it's really cool.
The thing I would recommend that people try with this is where do you put your upsell for ISP? Because frankly, skill developers are very cautious about where to put the upsell. They tend to put it pretty buried into the skill experience. And this allows you to creep the upsell forward and creep it out to people and see if it's actually working better or worse, right? And then you can tune up and tune down to get that optimized.
Yeah. Someone asked if there are graphics included with the Alexa Entities. I don't believe so. I believe it's only text-based data.
That's right.
Two other things that were really exciting news, especially for hardware developers, are that AVS and the ACK, the Alexa Connect kit, are both expanded internationally, like 25-something countries, which is really exciting because I know there's a lot of people working on devices that have been limited by the fact that it's been US only.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about how many devices are out there now because of these two programs. And so the expansion here is just really fantastic.
Yeah, I do have it right here. I have my own AVS device sitting right here. This is just a Raspberry Pi.
Nice.
But like the moment that AVS became available to run on devices like this, I had to try it, right? I had to go out and I built my own Alexa device. So
it's awesome.
Super, super cool stuff. All right, we have, oh my gosh, we only have 2 minutes left. There's a couple of other things I wanted to talk about. The Alexa Custom Assistant, I think, is really exciting for the reason that we've already built all the infrastructure and technology to be able to handle voice-enabled interactions. And I know there are a number of other companies that want their own voice assistant, but don't want to have to spend the years of research and development that we spent. And so Alexa Custom Assistant basically unlocks that for other businesses that want to be able to build their own assistant by using our technology to do it. Different voices, different wake words, all that kind of stuff. And I think that plays really nicely into VII, the Voice Interoperability Initiative, which is that we also want, we are a big believer that there will be many voice assistants in many places. And we want everybody to be able to talk with everyone. So imagine being able to talk to Google Assistant and say, hey, I want to talk to Alexa now, or vice versa, or being able to talk to your BMW and then say, hey, I need to talk to Alexa now. All of those things as a part of this initiative, that's kind of the vision of where we're headed with all this.
And it allows for very specialized experiences like roll down my windows. What's my tire pressure in my car? What, things that you don't want to do on all your other devices, right? Like it's about that experience right now. And then you're thinking, I want to ask my car about it, So yeah, I think it's really neat that you can get those really excellent, like device specific experiences.
Agreed. And I'm seeing a lot of this interoperability. You also see this with Matter, which is about smart home devices and kind of a uniform way for all of those devices to communicate and share data also. So I'm really excited about the future, and I am very happy to work at a company that embraces this idea. It feels like the idea, like open source is another good example, right? But it's when a company can take a perspective on a product that is, we're not the only ones and we don't want to be. I think that's an incredibly healthy optimistic view of the world. When you take a perspective like, well, we're gonna like everything's locked down, we're gonna be our way, and this is how like we don't have to play with others. I think that that's a miss in almost every bit of technology. And the more open you can be, the more accommodating you can be, and be a part of the ecosystem, not the ecosystem itself.
To me, this ties back into the ambient computing kind of experience. Like, if you really want your computing to be ubiquitous, then you need to have your computing be everywhere, right? And so that kind of a mentality makes a lot of sense. Yep,
totally agree. Well, Paul, this has been an energizing, rapid, fast-paced hour. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk about all this stuff. For all of you that are tuned in, if you want to find out more, if you want to know how to get into all of these programs, there's a fantastic blog post that you can find on our website. You can go to developer.amazon.com/Alexa and look for the blog there. The blog post has an outline of every single one of the features, including links to register for developer previews and betas, as well as links to all the documentation that's available for you as well. So make sure you track that down. It's well worth the read. And I hope that all of you will have an opportunity to try out some of these new features and let us know what you think.
Yeah, I'm specifically looking for what you use and how you use it, so we can figure out where to double down. Right? That's our kind of approach. Is like, if things get used a lot and they're really powerful for the community, then we're going to double down on it. If not, we're going to go find the next thing to go invent and dig into it. Right? So, thank you in advance. Like, this is going to be really exciting to see what happens.
Very much. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I almost just dropped
time.
I have a cake to get into.
Happy birthday, Jeff. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I will see you guys all very, very soon. Have a great Thursday, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. It's good seeing you again. That's awesome.